from where we last left off, Mr. Goblin Slayer and his party receive a quest coming from the Sword Maiden itself. As they fight the goblins, they notice that the goblins are getting smarter with each encounter. Nonetheless, Mr. Slayer and the crew manage to accomplish the quest without any casualties. After the quest, Anna and Miss Sword Maiden take a hot bath together to relieve their stress. Inside, Anna can't help but look at Miss Sword Maiden's scar, so she took the courage to ask. Miss Sword Maiden told her that she got those scars after she made a mistake during a quest. Before Miss Sword Maiden left the bathhouse, she told Anna that Mr. Goblin Slayer was lost, and because of that he would surely disappear one day. Inside the Watertowns Guild, Mr. Goblin Slayer along with Miss High Elf went to the bulletin board to look at the available quests. Mr. Slayer finds it weird that there was no giant rat slaying quest despite the town having large sewers. The next day, the party went inside the sewers again, but this time Mr. Slayer brought a canary with them. The reason he brought a canary was that the canary had a good sense of smell. They could detect even the slightest hint of poison. As they walked inside the sewer, they encountered an unlocked room, so they immediately went inside to search the room. It turns out that the room was a trap. The door locked as soon as they entered and poison gas started seeping inside the room. Luckily, Mr. Goblin Slayer was always prepared. He brought masks with him and asked his companions to use them to avoid being poisoned. The party worked together to prevent the poison from spreading any further. Right after the poison gas subsided, a horde of goblins went inside the room and ambushed them. But before the goblins overwhelmed them, Anna has already cast his barrier skill. Everything changed though when a goblin champion popped up. Mr. Goblin was forced to get out of the barrier and face the champion. The champion managed to land a clean blow to our hero. Because of that, Anna lost her focus and the barrier shattered. Miss High Elf was pinned against the floor while Anna was picked up by the champion and bit her arm. Mr. Goblin Slayer saw that everyone was struggling, which reminded him of the day when he could not do anything but watch her sister die. Because of that, Mr. Slayer had managed to stand back to his feet. He saw a string of human hair on the ground and used it to strangle the goblin champion. Seeing how brave Mr. Goblin Slayer was, everyone's morale has boosted. He then struck the goblin champion's eye. The goblins were trembling because they saw their leader was beaten by our hero. Because of that, the goblins retreated. Everyone then approached Anna. Mr. Lizardman stated that they got lucky because if they didn't arrive on time, Anna would be already dead. While Anna and Mr. Slayer talk to each other, Mr. Slayer suddenly collapses due to how fatal his wounds are. We then get a flashback of a young Mr. Goblin Slayer. The young Mr. Slayer was driven by vengeance. He was willing to do anything just to revenge on her late sister. We then get a glimpse of his master, but before something happens, Mr. Slayer wakes up from his dream. When he woke up, he noticed that he was naked and Anna was sleeping naked beside him. Miss Sword Maiden then enters the room to check them up. It turns out that Mr. Slayer was brought back to life because of the miracle of resurrection, which can achieved by sharing a bed with a virgin, which is Anna. Miss Sword Maiden then opened up about the day when she lost her virginity after the goblins raped her. This gave her trauma toward the goblins that although she was a sword maiden, she was unable to fight them. After Miss Sword Maiden left, Anna woke up, startled, because Mr. Goblin Slayer woke up before her, so she asked him if he saw anything. But Mr. Slayer is a smooth talker. He replied, "Yes, so don't worry, you don't have any scars." After they finished dressing up, the strange trio entered the room. Miss High Elf teases Anna by saying that Anna is so worried about him that all she says is Mr. Goblin Slayer. The old dwarf then invited everyone to eat, because no one has eaten yet since the incident happened. After the party finished eating, the trio stated that they were going back to the sewers to do some scouting. They told the two to tend their equipment first before proceeding into the sewer. So, they did exactly that. They went to the local blacksmith for maintenance. The blacksmith ogles when he sees Anna. It makes Mr. Slayer jealous, so he slams the table with his equipment and tells him that he also needs some repairs. Mr. Slayer also bought a short sword for him to use at tomorrow's hunt. After they went out of the repair shop, Mr. Goblin Slayer and Anna had an ice cream date. They sat on a bench and as usual, their topic was all about goblins. Anna stated they needed to accomplish the given task because many lives were at risk. Mr. Goblin Slayer reminisced about when he and his sister used to spend a lot of time together. He told Anna that thanks to his sister he managed to gain the courage and strength that he has now. Ever since he witnessed his sister die though, he started fearing death in vain. That's why he was thankful for everyone's help, because without them he wouldn't be able to achieve where he was now. Anna then told him that it was because they chose to do so. The witch and the warlord then pop up in the picture. They came to deliver the parcel that Mr. Goblin Slayer requested. The next day the party went to the sewer again to continue the quest. The trio then pointed to the creature that they encountered when they did their search yesterday. The one-eyed creature can shoot fire spells and nullifying spells, but Mr. Goblin Slayer has a plan on how to beat the creature. He uses the parcel he received from the witch and the warlord. The parcel was a gunpowder, and right after he finished spreading the gunpowder he left the room. He then asked Anna to use his barrier to trap the creature inside. The moment the creature used his fire spell, the room exploded. After they took down the one-eyed creature, they saw a mirror that seemed was be protected by the monster before. The moment Anna touched the mirror, they saw a horde of goblin that seemed to be preparing for something. As the mirror kept on playing, they saw the boat that the goblins used the other day. That's how they concluded that the mirror was an ancient artifact capable of producing a gate, and someone must have been summoning the goblins with the mirror. Just thinking at the fact that someone was so evil such as supplying the goblins shivered their spine. But then another horde of goblins rushed toward the room, so immediately they took their formation ready to face the goblins. High Elf hands were trembling from fear, but Mr. Slayer consoled her. Not long after that, the horde and the goblin champion has come to finish the unsettled business. The champion had managed to enter the room, so Mr. Slayer approached it to continue the duel. Mr. Slayer took the opportunity to lure the horde of goblins to the champion for friendly fire. Meanwhile, Mr. Lizardman and Anna were trying to remove the mirror as per Mr. Slayer's order. After they removed the mirror, Anna cast a light spell that stunned the goblins temporarily. The old dwarf then cast his rock tomb spell to finish the horde once and for all. After that, Mr. Goblin Slayer met up with Miss Sword Maiden. Mr. Slayer bluntly told her that he was suspicious of her because he felt like she already knew everything from the start. Miss Sword Maiden is honest though, she quickly admits her sins. She revealed that her plan was to make the people realize how horrible goblins were. So, she planned out everything including the death of one of her acolytes. Yet no one in the city cares. Because everyone in the city relies on her, they expect her to take down the goblins. But she is unable to do so due to her trauma toward goblins. She then told Mr. Goblin Slayer that he could take the magic mirror, but Mr. Slayer told her that he got rid of it because there's no guarantee that the other goblins won't learn how to use it. So, it would be better for him to play it safe. Miss Sword Maiden then confessed her feelings toward him, but Mr. Slayer rejected her. Before Mr. Goblin Slayer left, he unconsciously rizzed someone again. He told her that he would help her in slaying goblins even in her dreams. The next morning, they headed out to go back to their city. Inside the carriage, Miss High Elf stated that she was glad that they were able to accomplish the quest. Mr. Lizardman, on the other hand though, felt like the magic mirror went to waste. He was still grateful though that they managed to accomplish the quest unharmed. Mr. Goblin Slayer then told Anna that when they got back, there was something he wanted to try, and that is to eat ice cream again. That intrigued Mr. Lizardman, so he asked him if he could kindly join them. Of course, Mr. Slayer told him that he could come, but this time he planned to make the ice cream by himself. Everyone was willing to join, but the shy High Elf was in the corner waiting for an invitation. Mr. Slayer invited her to come and she answered yes in a most tsundere way. We then get a flashback to when Mr. Goblin Slayer and Musum were still young. The young Musum told our hero that her mom would be going to the city for some errand. That made the young Mr. Slayer envious of her mom because he also dreams of going to the city. That made him cry, so he went to his sister for comfort. His sister told her he shouldn't be envious because he would turn into a goblin, and besides he should be protecting women. That day, her sister made his favorite dish of which he didn't know the taste anymore, but he knew that it was a delicious dish. But then, he woke up from his dream. While tending the fence, as usual, he was greeted by Musum, who asked him to have breakfast with her. Musum's uncle heard the news that the heroine had slain the demon lord, so the monster must have been calm. But Mr. Goblin Slayer stated that goblins never took a day off. After they had their breakfast, Mr. Slayer and Musum would go to the city again for a delivery. Before they leave, Musum's uncle asks him to take care of her, to which he accepted. After the delivery, he went straight to the guild, where the warlord complimented him that he had a well-built body despite never seeing him before. The warlord treated him nicely because he was unaware that he was talking with Mr. Goblin Slayer due to not wearing his helmet. The witch then told him that there weren't any quests for him, so he went straight to the local blacksmith to check his armor. His armor was still in repair, but the blacksmith gave him a replacement which was still good as new. While going back to the guild, he saw an adventurers that were training a group of rookies. While he watches them, a female knight from the party approaches him. She told him that a rumor of him almost dying at Watertown spread like wildfire, to which he confirmed that the rumor was true. Inside the guild, Anna and Mr. Goblin Slayer met up to check on each other. He asked her about his left shoulder and she replied that it's already healed. Miss Counter Lady then approached them to ask him about his quest at Watertown. He told her that he was fine, but Anna butted in and told the counter lady that he was not fine at all because he almost died during the quest. Miss Counter Lady was so worried about Mr. Slayer, so she asked him if his wounds were properly tended. That made Anna remember the time when he slept with Mr. Goblin Slayer to resurrect him. Miss Counter Lady then gave him a letter that came from Watertown. That made Anna jealous. It made her wonder if there was something between Mr. Goblin Slayer and her. But then the three oddballs came up to them and asked him to at least say hi to them if he was already in the area anyway. They then had lunch together, including Musum and Miss Counter Lady. Miss High Elf then asked if the rumor about a heroine slaying a demon lord was true. Miss Counter Lady stated that it was true and that she already received word from the capital. Miss Counter Lady brought up the topic where Mr. Slayer almost lost his life. She told him that if ever that happens again, he would suspend him from taking a quest for 6 months. At night, Miss High Elf and the old dwarf had a drinking duel. Anna tried to stop them, but it was already too late. Other adventurers started making a bet on whether the Miss High Elf would win or the old dwarf would win. At the same time, Mr. Goblin Slayer and Musum went outside where they had a heartful conversation while staring at the moon. Mr. Goblin Slayer told her that he was thinking about the future. She then pulled Mr. Slayer toward herself to give him a lap pillow. While patting him, she told him to take his time and stop rushing. The next morning, while Musum was cooking, she was shocked when she saw Mr. Goblin Slayer and told her that he needed to run away as far as possible. She asked why, and he replied that he saw a bunch of goblins' footprints while he was doing his usual morning routine. Not only that, judging from the footprints, he deduced that the goblins have definitely a leader. It wasn't a shaman nor a hobgoblin, but a goblin lord. The goblins' most vicious leader. Unfortunately, they don't have time to ask the capital for help because the goblins would attack soon and there are more than 100 horde of goblins. Musum was trembling with fear. Mr. Slayer also stated that the reason was more likely that the goblins planned to use their village as their stronghold. That frustrates Mr. Slayer because once again he was unable to do anything against the goblins. That's why he was begging Musum to run away because he didn't want to lose a precious someone again. Musum refused because she knew that if she ran away, he was going to stay behind. Mr. Slayer then told her that she wouldn't be able to survive the attack because even if she managed to stay alive, the goblins would kill her inside by raping her. That made Musum break down in tears because although she was scared of possible consequences, she just can't leave him behind because she also doesn't want to lose someone precious. He then left. Outside Musum's house, her uncle told Mr. Slayer to at least give her a proper goodbye because she deserved that at least. But Mr. Slayer left because he didn't plan to make her cry. Inside the guild, Mr. Goblin Slayer approached the warlord and asked him a favor, which shocked everyone because it was the first time for Mr. Slayer to ask someone a favor. He told the warlord that a goblin lord would invade their village and it had 100 horde of goblins rallying with it. That sent a chill down everyone's spine, so they heard him out. They were willing to help him as long as there was a reward. Mr. Goblin Slayer stated that of course there would be a reward, which is everything that he possesses, including all of his equipment, assets, knowledge, time, and life. In other words, he will be forever serving them. That shocked everyone. They realized how serious Mr. Goblin Slayer was. The warlord accepted his proposal. The oddballs also happened to be there and they told him that they would help him too. The witch then included herself in the quest. A message from the capital then was held, and that there would be a gold coin reward for every goblin you slay. That hyped up everyone inside the guild, so they accepted the quest. It turns out that everyone was willing to help him anyway because they are their precious guildmate. Anna also happened to be there. She told him that of course she would come with him. At dusk, the intense war between the proud adventurers and the wicked goblin was about to begin. We then get a quick glimpse of the goblin army and the goblin lord. Thousands of goblins were waiting for their lord to command an attack, which the goblin lord did. A horde of goblins started attacking. The adventurers were about to use their bows to defend the village, but they froze when they saw the goblins were using dying female adventurers as a human shield. Luckily, the old dwarf and the witch were there and cast their sleep spell, making the goblins unable to advance. The adventurers took advantage of the opportunity and saved their fellow comrades. One of the adventurers then gave the signal to start attacking the goblins. They took down most of the first horde of goblins. This made the goblin lord angry, so it started deploying its chivalry. But fortunately, they built an outpost there, so they managed to inform the other adventurers. The chivalry of goblins took the bait. They died before they even reached the village. It turns out that Mr. Goblin Slayer was the one who made the plan. Thanks to him, they managed to survive the first horde without any casualties. They managed to anger the Goblin Lord, so the Goblin Lord sent his army of hobgoblins led by 2 goblin champions to finish them once and for all. The rookie adventurers were shaking, but the experienced ones were fired up. The veterans asked the rookies to let them handle the situation. While they were fending off the champion and the hobgoblins, we get to see the Goblin Lords seem to be running away in panic. It turns out that Mr. Goblin Slayer has come to give the Goblin Lord a divine punishment. The Goblin Lord's plan was to run away and reproduce so he could retry his conquest, but everything was already too late, because Mr. Slayer had already destroyed their home. An intense stare-down occurred between the Goblin Lord and our Mr. Goblin Slayer. The first strike was done by the Goblin Lord, but Mr. Goblin Slayer parried it with ease. Mr. Slayer managed to land a clean slash at the Goblin Lord's face, which made the Goblin Lord angry, so it sent Mr. Slayer flying. But Mr. Slayer was unfazed. He immediately stood up right after. Meanwhile, at the village, the adventurers were doing well. They managed to take care of most of the goblins. The veterans, on the other hand, struggled against the Goblin champion. Despite the struggle, the two knights had managed to kill one of the champions thanks to their amazing synchronization. The other Goblin champion was having a duel against the warlord. Everyone was in awe as they watched how tenacious the warlord was. The warlord waited for a perfect opportunity to strike the champion. The moment the champion missed his attack, he took advantage of it, resulting in the death of the second Goblin champion. Now back to Mr. Slayer. The Goblin Lord took him down many times, but our hero keeps standing up from his feet. His tenacity angered the Goblin Lord, so the Goblin Lord did his most powerful strike, resulting in Mr. Goblin Slayer being immobilized. The Goblin Lord took his time to kill Mr. Slayer. It stomped him multiple times before giving the decisive blow. Just when the Goblin Lord was about to finish him, the Goblin Slayer suddenly froze. It turns out that it was all thanks to Anna's constrict spell. The Goblin Lord couldn't move a single muscle as the remnants of Mr. Slayer's sword kept on plummeting. The Goblin Lord apologized to Anna. It told her that it would stop killing from now, so she gave it a second chance. But Anna was adamant. She knew that it was a hoax, because goblins are not to be trusted. Mr. Goblin Slayer then stood back up and cut the Lord's throat to finish it once and for all. Mr. Slayer was losing blood because of all the damage he took, but luckily Anna was there to heal him. Anna broke down in tears because once again Mr. Slayer almost lost his life. Thanks to Mr. Slayer's smooth talk, he managed to stop Anna from crying. At sunrise, Mr. Goblin Slayer and Anna met up with the other adventurers. The quest concluded and our heroes were victorious. Meanwhile, the proud heroine and her party members were going to the city's festival because Mr. Goblin Slayer managed to get their attention. Inside the guild, a party was held for their success in protecting the village. While everyone was enjoying the party, Anna fell asleep due to exhaustion. While she was asleep, Mr. Goblin Slayer gave her the gold coin he received from killing the Goblin Lord. Mr. Slayer then told Musum that he finally made a decision, and that was to pursue his dream of becoming an adventurer once again. Musum was so happy for her friend because finally, he wasn't as lost as before. So, she told him to just go for it because she completely supports him. When Anna woke up, Musum left to give Mr. Goblin Slayer and Anna a time together. Anna noticed that Mr. Slayer gave him the gold coin, so she thanked him for it. She then asked him why he posted the quest sooner. He replied that he didn't expect that there would be people who were willing to help him, because all this time he thought that he was all alone. Hearing that made Anna sigh because of how dense he was. She told him that everyone treats him as their precious guildmate, especially her. Anna then can't help but look at Mr. Goblin Slayer, so she took the courage to ask him to take off his helmet, to which he did, resulting in her blushing hard. The drunk Miss High Elf then saw them, so she notified everyone that Mr. Goblin Slayer had removed his helmet. All of the adventurers, including the counter lady, were thrilled at seeing Mr. Slayer bareface. Everyone was amazed, especially the women, because they did not expect the Mr. Goblin Slayer was a good-looking man. Mr. Slayer couldn't help but smile because he was proud of where he was now. That's all for this recap. Finally, our hero has gained the ability to be happy once again. The sadness within him was slowly fading away, and he also found a dream to pursue. But it's not over yet. In fact, he was still in the beginning of something new, yet something good. Join me in the next episode. Together we will witness more of Mr. Goblin Slayer and his party. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to be updated for future uploads. Take care, as always.